I still remember the first time I laid eyes on Lisa. It was one of those moments that etches itself into your memory, not because of anything particularly dramatic, but because something inside you just knows. She had this effortless grace, the kind that drew attention without demanding it. A confident, radiant smile that made her eyes shine. When she laughed, it wasn't just a sound. It was something you felt. She walked into my life when I wasn't even looking for love, and before I knew it, she had taken up space in my world in a way that felt permanent. It started as something simple, coffee dates, late-night calls that stretched into early morning conversations, stolen kisses in the rain. Every moment with her felt right. She wasn't just beautiful. She was intelligent, ambitious, and had a warmth that made me feel like the luckiest man alive. We got married in a small but elegant ceremony, surrounded by close friends and family. It wasn't about the grandeur. It was about us. I still remember the way she looked at me when she walked down the aisle, like I was the only man she had ever seen, the only one she ever would. And I believed that look. I held on to it like a promise. Our life together was, by all accounts, a good one. We both had solid careers. Lisa worked in marketing while I ran a business with my best friend, Mark. Money wasn't a worry. We weren't rich, but we were comfortable, and Lisa always knew that a sizable inheritance from her parents would eventually provide us with an extra cushion. But even without it, we were happy. Or at least, I was. The happiest moment of our marriage came with the birth of our son, Daniel. Holding him for the first time, watching his tiny fingers curl around mine, it changed something in me. He became my world in a way I hadn't expected. Every choice, every decision, suddenly revolved around giving him the best life possible. Lisa seemed just as devoted. She was an incredible mother, patient, affectionate, always ready with a lullaby or a bedtime story. But looking back, I should have noticed the small shifts, the barely perceptible changes that started creeping in over the years. At first, it was nothing, just small things. Lisa spending more time with her best friend, Monica, who always seemed to whisper things into her ear, things that subtly changed her outlook on life. I had never been particularly fond of Monica. There was something about the way she spoke, always hinting at dissatisfaction, at what Lisa could have rather than what she already did. Then there was the way Lisa started dressing differently. It wasn't just about looking good. It was deliberate. Clothes that were meant to be noticed. Nights out that turned into early mornings. When I asked, she would just laugh it off. "I'm just catching up with Monica. You're acting paranoid." I let it go. Because I trusted her. Because I wanted to believe that we were still us. But there's something about love. It blinds you, makes you ignore the warning signs that should be obvious. I didn't know it then, but the perfect life I thought I had, it was already slipping through my fingers, and I wouldn't even realize it until it was too late. Lisa's changes weren't sudden. They were gradual, creeping in like a slow-moving storm that you don't notice until it's already upon you. At first, I told myself I was imagining it, that she was just going through a phase. We'd been married for years, and it was natural for people to evolve, right? That's what I kept telling myself. But the signs were there, clear as day. It all started when she reconnected with an old college friend, Jake. I remember the first time she mentioned him. We were having dinner, just the three of us, me, Lisa, and Daniel, our usual routine after a long day. She casually brought up that she had run into Jake while out shopping with Monica. "You remember Jake, right? From college?" she had asked, barely looking up from her plate. I did. Not personally, but I had heard about him in passing back when Lisa and I first got together. He was one of those names that had come up once or twice, just another part of her past, nothing significant. At least, that's what I had thought. "Yeah, I remember. How's he doing?" I asked, keeping my tone neutral. "He's doing well. Just moved back into town. We're thinking of catching up over coffee this weekend." I hesitated for a moment. There was something about the way she said it, almost too casual. But I didn't want to be that guy, the jealous, overbearing husband. So, I just nodded and moved on. That was my first mistake. That one coffee meeting turned into more. I didn't question it at first because Lisa had never given me a reason to doubt her. But soon, things started adding up in ways I couldn't ignore. She started being more secretive with her phone, Lisa had never been the type to hide anything, but suddenly, she was tilting her screen away from me whenever she got a message. Her late-night giggles while texting turned into muted conversations behind closed doors. And the worst part? She started locking her phone. I noticed it one evening when we were sitting on the couch, watching a movie. Her phone lit up with a notification, but instead of checking it in front of me like she always did, she picked it up quickly, typed something, and placed it face down on the table. Who was that? I asked casually, trying to keep my voice light. Just Monica, she said without looking at me. But something felt off. Maybe it was the way her fingers tightened around the edge of her phone, or the way she suddenly seemed too focused on the TV. I told myself I was overthinking. But then came the financial red flags. Lisa had access to our shared account, and while we never struggled with money, she wasn't the type to withdraw large amounts without discussing it first. But suddenly, she started making significant withdrawals, often at odd hours. One evening, I checked our banking app just out of habit, and my stomach dropped. $5,000 withdrawal, $3,500 transfer, $7,200 wire transfer labeled as investment. I frowned. Lisa wasn't reckless with money. She had always been responsible, meticulous even. I knew her well enough to know that she wouldn't make such large transactions without at least mentioning them. I waited until she got home to bring it up. Hey babe, I noticed some big transactions on the account. Everything okay? She barely looked at me as she kicked off her heels and walked to the kitchen. Yeah, it's nothing. Just some investments I made. I followed her. What kind of investments? She sighed as if I was asking something ridiculous. Monica introduced me to this opportunity. It's just a short-term thing, nothing major. That was the moment I realized she wasn't even trying to explain. She was brushing it off like I was questioning her about what she had for lunch. I let it go for the night, but my gut told me something was wrong. The final red flag came from someone I never expected. Our son, Daniel. It was late, and I was tucking him into bed when he suddenly looked up at me, his small face filled with confusion. Dad, why does Mommy always go out at night now? My heart stopped. I tried to keep my expression neutral, not wanting to alarm him. What do you mean, buddy? He shrugged, fiddling with the edge of his blanket. She used to read me stories before bed, but now, she's always gone when it's dark. Sometimes I hear her talking on the phone when she thinks I'm sleeping. I swallowed hard, forcing a smile. Maybe she's just busy with work, kiddo. But I knew better. Lisa didn't work late. She had never needed to. And now, even our son was starting to notice that something was off. That night, as I lay in bed next to Lisa, I stared at the ceiling, my mind racing. The woman I had loved for years was slipping away from me, and I had no idea why. I could feel the distance growing, like an invisible wall building between us. And the worst part? She didn't seem to care. I wanted to believe that I was imagining things. That Lisa would come back to me, that whatever this phase was, it would pass. But deep down, I knew better. This wasn't a phase. This was the beginning of something I wasn't ready to face. And somehow, I had the sinking feeling that by the time I figured it all out, it would be too late. Lisa started coming home later than usual. It wasn't an immediate change, but something that crept in gradually, until one day, I realized that the woman who used to rush home to tell me about her day now barely spoke to me at all. At first, I convinced myself that I was overthinking it, that she was just busy, caught up in whatever investment she and Monica had been talking about. But deep down, I knew something was wrong. The first time I confronted her, she was standing in front of the bathroom mirror, removing her earrings, her expression unreadable. I leaned against the doorway, arms crossed. You've been working late a lot these days. She barely spared me a glance. Yeah, things have been hectic. I nodded slowly. You never used to work this late before. Lisa sighed, setting down her earrings. You're overreacting. I have a life outside this house, you know? Just because I'm your wife doesn't mean I have to check in with you every second. Her tone was sharp, defensive. It caught me off guard. Lisa had never spoken to me like that before. I exhaled, trying to keep my voice steady. That's not what I'm saying. I just feel like I barely see you anymore. She rolled her eyes. You're being dramatic. And with that, she walked out of the bathroom, leaving me standing there, questioning everything. That was the beginning of the gaslighting. It wasn't outright lies, but subtle manipulations. Lisa making it seem like I was imagining things, like my concerns were baseless. If I asked her why she was on her phone so much, she'd scoff and say, "God, do I need to report every text message to you now?" If I questioned why she smelled like a cologne that wasn't mine, she'd laugh and say, "Maybe it's the Uber drivers. You're being ridiculous." She made me doubt my own instincts, convincing me that I was the problem. But the moment I truly realized something was off, something I could no longer ignore, was the night I saw her at the restaurant. She had told me she was working late again, so I decided to grab dinner with Mark. We were catching up, discussing business, when I happened to glance toward the far side of the restaurant. And there she was, Lisa, sitting at a corner table, laughing, with Jake. It took me a second to process it. My stomach twisted into knots, my mind racing. Lisa was supposed to be at work. She wasn't supposed to be here, smiling like she didn't have a care in the world, leaning slightly toward him like he was the most interesting man in the room. I felt my fingers clench into fists under the table. Mark must have noticed my sudden shift because he frowned. "You okay?" I forced myself to breathe. "That's Lisa." His brows furrowed. "Lisa? Where?" I subtly nodded toward the corner table. Mark turned his head, his expression shifting the moment he saw her. He exhaled sharply. "Shit." For a few moments, I just sat there, watching her. Watching the way she tilted her head when she laughed, the way she tucked her hair behind her ear. Little things she used to do with me. I tried to tell myself it was innocent, that maybe it was just a friendly dinner, but the way Jake was looking at her, it was anything but friendly. I didn't approach her. I didn't want to cause a scene. Instead, I quietly paid for my meal, exchanged a glance with Mark, and walked out. But I wasn't done. I got home before Lisa that night. I sat in the living room, the weight of what I had seen pressing down on me. I wasn't just angry, I was hurt. The kind of hurt that sits in your chest like a heavy stone, making it hard to breathe. And then, she walked in. It was past midnight. She didn't expect me to be awake. She froze for a second when she saw me sitting there, but then quickly recovered, setting her purse down like nothing was out of the ordinary. "You're up late." I didn't say anything at first. I just looked at her, studied her. She smelled different. Not like her usual perfume, but like something masculine. Like him. "How was work?" I finally asked, my voice calm, too calm. She blinked. "Exhausting." I let the silence stretch between us before I spoke again. "Really? Because I saw you tonight, Lisa." A flicker of something. Guilt? Panic? Crossed her face, but she recovered quickly. "Saw me where?" I tilted my head. "At the restaurant. With Jake." She hesitated, just for a second. "Oh, right. I ran into him after work. We grabbed a quick bite. No big deal. No big deal." I clenched my jaw. "Funny. Because you told me you were working late." She sighed dramatically, rubbing her temples. "God, you're acting like I committed a crime. I didn't think I needed to inform you of every second of my day." I stared at her, my patience wearing thin. "That's not the point, Lisa." She rolled her eyes. "Then what is?" "Because I'm really not in the mood for one of your interrogations right now." I let out a bitter laugh. "Wow, my interrogations? You lied to me, Lisa." "I didn't lie." "You did, and you know it." She groaned, grabbing her purse. "I'm not doing this with you right now." And just like that, she walked past me, disappearing into our bedroom as if nothing had happened. I sat there for a long time after that, staring at the empty space where she had been. For the first time, I allowed myself to admit the truth. Lisa wasn't just pulling away. She was gone, and I didn't know if I'd ever get her back. But something told me that soon, I wouldn't even want to. I woke up the next morning to an empty bed. The spot beside me was cold, untouched. Lisa must have slept in the guest room or on the couch. I didn't know, and at this point, I didn't care. The weight of last night still pressed against my chest, a dull, persistent ache that wouldn't go away. I should have felt angry, furious, even. But the truth was, I felt something worse. Hollow. Lisa wasn't the woman I married. That much was clear now. The lies, the secrecy, the way she had looked at me last night as if I were the problem. It all pointed to one undeniable fact. She had already made her decision. I just didn't know it yet. By the time I got up and made my way downstairs, I heard her in the kitchen. She was standing by the counter, sipping coffee like nothing had happened, scrolling through her phone with an unreadable expression. She didn't even look up when I entered. "Morning," she said flatly. I leaned against the doorway, crossing my arms. "Morning." Silence stretched between us, thick and suffocating. I wanted to ask her why she was acting like everything was normal, why she had lied to my face last night, why she was so damn distant, but something told me it wouldn't matter. So, I just stood there, watching her, waiting. Eventually, she set her coffee down and let out a long breath, like she had finally decided on something. Then she turned to face me. "We need to talk." There it was. The sentence no man ever wants to hear. I didn't say anything. I just nodded, my throat suddenly dry. Lisa pulled out a chair and sat down. I stayed standing. "I'm just going to be honest," she said, tapping her fingers against the table. "I don't think this marriage is working anymore." My stomach twisted. "What?" She sighed, like she was exhausted, like she had carried this burden for too long and was finally relieved to let it go. "I've been unhappy for a long time, and I didn't know how to tell you. I didn't want to hurt you." I swallowed hard. "Lisa, where's this coming from?" I've met someone else." The words hit me like a freight train. My mind went blank for a moment, my body frozen in place. I knew. Deep down, I had already known. The late nights, the secrecy, the coldness. Every sign had been there, screaming at me to open my eyes. But hearing her say it? It was different. It made it real. I forced myself to breathe, my fingers curling into fists. "Jake." She didn't deny it, didn't even hesitate, just nodded. "Yes." I felt like I had been punched in the gut. "You're leaving me for him." Lisa looked away, her expression unreadable. "It's not about him. It's about me. I need something different, something new." I let out a bitter laugh, shaking my head. "Right, something new." She flinched at the sarcasm in my voice, but she didn't argue. Instead, she reached into her purse and pulled out a stack of papers. I didn't need to look to know what they were. Divorce papers. My heart pounded, my vision blurring at the edges. "You've already decided, haven't you?" I said, my voice barely above a whisper. Lisa placed the papers on the table, sliding them toward me. "I want to make this as easy as possible for both of us." Easy. There was nothing easy about this. My marriage, our life, was unraveling in front of me, and she was treating it like a business transaction, like something that could be signed away in ink. I didn't touch the papers, didn't even look at them. Instead, I lifted my gaze to meet hers. "And what about Daniel?" For the first time, she hesitated. "I don't want to fight over custody. I think we can work something out. So, you'll just visit him when it's convenient?" My voice was sharper than I intended. Lisa sighed, rubbing her temples. "I'm not abandoning him, okay? I need to do this." I exhaled through my nose, fighting the urge to slam my fist against the table. "And your inheritance?" That was the second blow, the final twist of the knife. Lisa met my eyes, her expression unwavering. "I gave it to Jake." I blinked. "You what?" She crossed her arms, as if she had expected my reaction. "He needed it more than I did. He has plans, ideas. I believe in him." I let out a humorless laugh, running a hand down my face. "You believe in him?" "Yes." My stomach churned. Lisa had spent years building a life with me, and yet, here she was, giving everything she had to another man. A man she barely knew. A man who was using her. And she couldn't even see it. I forced myself to calm down, to think clearly. There was no point in arguing. No point in trying to change her mind. She had already made her choice. But what she didn't know, what she hadn't bothered to check, was that her inheritance wasn't what she thought it was. She had no idea what she had just done, and I wasn't going to tell her. Not yet. I inhaled deeply, then exhaled. When I finally spoke, my voice was calm, controlled. "All right, Lisa." She blinked, caught off guard by my tone. All right, she repeated. I nodded. You want out? Fine. You want to be with Jake? Fine. You want to give him everything you have? Go ahead. She narrowed her eyes. You're not going to fight me on this? I smiled, but it wasn't a warm one. It was the kind of smile that should have warned her. No, I said softly, but you'll regret it. And with that, I picked up the divorce papers, glanced at them once, then set them back down. Lisa had just made the biggest mistake of her life, and I was going to let her. I didn't beg. I didn't yell. I didn't throw accusations at her, even though she deserved every single one. Instead, I smiled. A calm, knowing smile. Because while Lisa thought she had won, thought she had outplayed me, she had no idea that the real game was just beginning. She had underestimated me, and that was her first mistake. The moment Lisa left the house that morning, I grabbed my phone and dialed the only person who could help me take control of the situation. David, my lawyer. David, I need you to take a look at Lisa's inheritance. There was a pause on the other end. Is something wrong? I let out a dry chuckle. That depends on your definition of wrong. She just told me she's divorcing me and that she gave her entire inheritance to some guy she's been seeing behind my back. David sighed. That's unfortunate. But here's the thing. You told me a while back that her inheritance wasn't exactly liquid cash. She might not even have what she thinks she does. That was exactly what I needed to hear. Lisa, in her arrogance, had failed to look at the fine print. She thought she was handing Jake a fortune, but the truth was, her inheritance wasn't what she imagined it to be. Yes, she had some money, around $10,000 in cash, but the real value was tied up in properties. Properties that she couldn't touch. Because they weren't hers. They were Daniel's. The moment I had married Lisa, her parents had set up a trust, ensuring that the bulk of their estate would go to their grandson, not their daughter. The properties, worth around $400,000, were legally secured in Daniel's name. Lisa could access them only as a guardian, meaning she couldn't sell them, transfer them, or gift them to her new lover. And she had no clue. She thought she had just handed Jake a fortune. In reality, she had given him nothing. I exhaled, gripping my phone tighter. I need you to get the paperwork ready. When Lisa realizes the truth, she's going to come running back, and I want to make sure she has no way of screwing Daniel over in the process. David's voice was firm. Consider it done. I hung up, the weight in my chest slowly easing. Lisa thought she had taken everything from me. She thought she had walked away with the upper hand. But she was about to learn a very painful lesson. For the next few weeks, I played along. I acted exactly how Lisa expected me to, defeated, quiet, as if I was processing the reality of our divorce. I let her flaunt her new life with Jake, pretending that it didn't affect me. She moved out a week after serving me the divorce papers, took a few of her things, and left behind the life we had built together without so much as a glance backward. I could see the way she looked at me, like she had already written me off, as if I was just an afterthought now. Jake, on the other hand, had the arrogance of a man who thought he had won. I heard about them through Monica, of all people. Apparently, Lisa had been parading Jake around like a prize, introducing him to her friends, taking him on weekend getaways, all paid for, of course, with her money. I played the part of the defeated husband perfectly, but inside, I was waiting. And my patience paid off when I got the phone call I had been expecting. Lisa's name flashed on my screen one afternoon while I was at the office. I took a deep breath before answering. Hello. She didn't waste time with pleasantries. I need to talk to you. Her voice was tight, anxious. I leaned back in my chair, pretending to be distracted. Oh. Lisa exhaled sharply. This isn't a joke, okay? I need to ask you something about my inheritance. There it was. The moment she realized she had made a very costly mistake. Your inheritance? I repeated, feigning confusion. What about it? I tried accessing the properties, but my lawyer says I can't sell them. He says they're not mine, that they're under Daniel's name. But that doesn't make sense, right? That money, it's mine. I should be able to do whatever I want with it. I couldn't help but smirk. Lisa, did you even read the terms of your inheritance? Silence. Then, a frustrated sigh. I don't need a lecture, okay? I just need to know if there's a way to fix this. I tapped my fingers against my desk. You mean, is there a way to undo the fact that you gave away something you never actually owned? Her sharp intake of breath told me everything I needed to know. Jake had already started pressuring her. He had been expecting money, and now that he realized there was none, he wasn't happy. I let the silence stretch, savoring the moment. Then, in the calmest voice possible, I said, "You played yourself, Lisa. Don't. No, really. You left your husband, gave your so-called fortune to a man you barely knew, and now you're realizing you bet on the wrong horse. That must be humbling." Her voice was tight, shaking. "I just need your help." I chuckled, low and bitter. "You want my help? The same man you lied to? The same man you betrayed? The same man you tried to leave with nothing?" Silence. Then, barely above a whisper, she said, "I didn't think it would turn out like this." I leaned forward, my tone soft but unyielding. "But it did. And now, you're going to have to live with it." She started to say something, but I hung up before she could. Lisa had made her choice. Now, she had to deal with the consequences. And this was only the beginning of her downfall. Lisa thought she had one. She strutted into her new life with Jake, believing she had made the right choice, that she had traded in our life for something more exciting. She had convinced herself that she was stepping into something better, something worth throwing away our marriage, our family, our history. But reality had a way of catching up, and it hit her fast. At first, Lisa and Jake paraded their relationship around as if it was something to be proud of. They went out for expensive dinners, took weekend trips, and flaunted their so-called happiness on social media. Monica, who had always been Lisa's biggest cheerleader, even started pulling away, probably realizing that Lisa's perfect life was more illusion than reality. But Jake? He was enjoying himself. And why wouldn't he? Lisa had handed him everything she had, believing that he was her future. The money she did have, the $10,000 she had left after realizing she couldn't touch the inheritance, started disappearing faster than she expected. She had planned a luxurious new life with him, but she hadn't anticipated how quickly Jake would start expecting her to fund everything. First, it was small things. A new suit, a high-end watch, gifts for himself, because he deserved it. Then came the bigger things. A lavish vacation to Dubai, first-class flights, five-star hotels, extravagant shopping sprees. Lisa, still high off the fantasy she had built, didn't question it. Not at first. She convinced herself it was an investment in their future, that she was supporting a man with ambition, a man who just needed the right opportunities. But Jake? He was never planning for the future. He was spending the future. I watched from a distance, waiting for the cracks to show. Lisa's social media posts became less frequent. The extravagant dates became rare. The flashy vacations stopped altogether. And then, Monica called me. It had been a while since we had spoken. Lisa had distanced herself from anyone who reminded her of her past, including me. So when Monica's name popped up on my phone, I was surprised. I answered, "Monica?" She hesitated. Then, "I thought you should know. Lisa's been asking around for a loan." I leaned back in my chair, my fingers tapping against my desk. "A loan?" "Yeah. She came to me yesterday, asking if I could lend her some money. She said it was just temporary, but she looked desperate." I exhaled slowly, my suspicion confirmed. Lisa was running out of money. Jake had drained her dry, and now that she had nothing left, she was scrambling. "Did you give it to her?" I asked. Monica scoffed. "Are you kidding? She dug this hole herself. I told her I didn't have anything to spare." I smirked. Lisa must have hated that. She had always been proud, always the one in control. Asking for money must have been humiliating for her. And it was only going to get worse. A week later, I got another call. This time, it was Lisa. I almost didn't answer. Almost let it go to voicemail, just to make her sweat a little longer. But curiosity got the better of me. I picked up. "Lisa." Her voice was different this time. Not the confident, dismissive tone she had used before. This time, she sounded defeated. "I need to see you," she said quietly. I leaned back, amusement flickering in my chest. "Oh? What for?" She hesitated. It's about Jake. I bit back a chuckle. Here it comes. What about him? She inhaled sharply, as if steadying herself. Can we meet in person? Please. I pretended to consider it. Let the silence stretch between us. Then, finally, I said, fine. Tomorrow. My place. She exhaled in relief. Okay. I hung up before she could say anything else. Lisa was finally feeling the weight of her choices, and I was going to enjoy every second of it. The next day, she showed up at my doorstep. She looked different. Not the radiant, confident woman who had once stood here, telling me she had moved on. No, she looked tired, hollow, like a woman who had realized she had made the biggest mistake of her life. I let her in, watching as she hesitated in the doorway before stepping inside. She glanced around, as if expecting things to be different. As if expecting me to be different. I wasn't. I was the same man I had always been. She was the one who had changed. I motioned toward the couch. Sit. She did. Slowly. Then, she looked up at me, and for the first time in a long time, I saw something in her eyes that I never thought I would see again. Regret. Jake left me, she said finally. I had expected it, but hearing her say it out loud, it was satisfying. I leaned against the armrest, my expression unreadable. What happened? She swallowed hard, gripping her hands together. He used me. He never loved me. He just wanted my money, and when it was gone, so was he. I tilted my head, pretending to be sympathetic. That must be hard. She looked up at me, her eyes searching mine. I know I hurt you. I know I made a mistake. I said nothing. She exhaled shakily. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I didn't know who else to turn to. There it was. She didn't come here out of guilt. She came here because she needed me. And that was pathetic. I studied her for a moment, then spoke, my voice calm. Lisa, you didn't just hurt me. You threw everything away. You made your choice, and now you have to live with it. Tears welled in her eyes. I don't know what to do. I sighed, standing up. That's not my problem. She flinched, her lips trembling. For the first time, she was seeing me clearly, seeing the man she had left behind, the man who had one. I walked toward the door, opening it. You should go, Lisa. She hesitated, as if expecting me to change my mind. I didn't. She stood slowly, wiping at her eyes. Then, with one last glance at me, she walked out. And just like that, she was gone. But this time, I wasn't the one losing. She was. Lisa's departure that evening didn't bring me the kind of satisfaction I expected. I thought I'd feel victorious, triumphant even, watching her walk out of my home with her shoulders slumped, her pride shattered. But instead, I felt a strange kind of emptiness. Not regret, never regret, but the cold realization that the woman I once loved had completely destroyed herself, and she had done it all by choice. I sat down on the couch, staring at the empty space she had occupied just moments ago. The house felt different, quieter. The past few months had been a storm. Lies, betrayal, and now the crumbling of the fantasy she had built with Jake. But in the end, the dust was settling, and I was still standing. Lisa, however, was not. The next few days were eerily quiet. Lisa didn't call. She didn't text. She had disappeared into whatever mess she had created for herself, and for once, I didn't feel the need to check on her. But then, one evening, I got a message from Monica. Monica, she's staying at a motel. I stared at the screen for a long time before responding. Me? And? Monica? And she has nothing left. I exhaled sharply, rubbing a hand over my face. I didn't want to care, but a part of me did. Not because I wanted her back. That ship had sailed the moment she had chosen Jake. But because once upon a time, Lisa had been my wife, the mother of my child. And now, she was nothing. Monica sent another text before I could reply. Monica, I thought you should know. That's all. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. 2 days later, I got another call. Lisa. This time, I answered. What do you want, Lisa? My voice was calm, indifferent. She hesitated on the other end. I need to see you. I leaned back against the kitchen counter, staring at the ceiling. I don't think that's a good idea. Her voice cracked. Please. There was something in the way she said it. Something raw, desperate. I let the silence stretch before finally exhaling. Fine. Where are you? I met her at a small diner on the outskirts of town. It was late, and the place was nearly empty. She was already sitting at a booth when I arrived, her fingers wrapped around a cup of coffee she probably couldn't afford. She looked different. Her once perfectly styled hair was slightly unkempt, her eyes hollow and sunken. There was a weariness about her that hadn't been there before, a weight on her shoulders that she couldn't shake off. She glanced up when I slid into the seat across from her. You look good, she said quietly. I didn't return the compliment. Instead, I leaned back, crossing my arms. What do you want, Lisa? She swallowed hard, looking down at her cup. I don't know where to start. I raised an eyebrow. Try the beginning. She let out a shaky breath. Jake is gone. I gave her a humorless smile. I know. She looked up, startled. You do? I nodded. Monica told me. Lisa's lips trembled. I don't know what I was thinking. I tilted my head, studying her. You weren't thinking, Lisa. That's the problem. Tears welled in her eyes, but I felt nothing. No sympathy. No desire to comfort her. She did this to herself. She wiped at her face, letting out a bitter laugh. God, I was so stupid. I didn't disagree. She took a deep breath before continuing. I gave up everything for him. I thought he loved me. He loved your money, I corrected. She nodded, swallowing hard. Yeah, he did. I drummed my fingers against the table. So what now? She hesitated. I don't know. I raised an eyebrow. You don't know? She looked down, ashamed. I don't have anywhere to go. There it was. The real reason she had called me. I let out a slow exhale, shaking my head. Lisa, you made your bed. She flinched. I know. You chose him. I know. You gave him everything. Her voice broke. I know. Silence. Then, she whispered, I just need some time to figure things out. I leaned forward, my voice steady. And you're looking to me for help? She nodded slowly. I let out a bitter chuckle. That's rich. Her face crumpled. I don't have anyone else. I stared at her for a long moment, my jaw tightening. I thought about Daniel, about how she had left him behind, choosing a fantasy over her own son. And suddenly, any lingering softness I might have felt vanished. I shook my head. That's not my problem, Lisa. She blinked, fresh tears spilling down her cheeks. Please. I pushed back from the table, standing up. I think we're done here. Her hands trembled as she reached for me, desperation in her eyes. Please, don't walk away. I stared down at her, my expression unreadable. You walked away first, Lisa. And with that, I turned and left. I didn't look back. I didn't have to, because Lisa was already gone. I walked out of that diner without a single glance back. The door swung shut behind me, cutting off whatever broken plea Lisa might have had left. But it didn't matter. I was done listening. The cold night air hit my face as I stepped outside, filling my lungs with something sharp and fresh, freedom. For the first time in months, I wasn't weighed down by anger or betrayal. There was nothing left to grieve. Lisa had made her choice, and now, she was living the consequences. I climbed into my car and sat there for a moment, gripping the steering wheel. My pulse was steady, my mind clear. I thought I'd feel victorious when this moment came, but the truth was, I felt nothing at all. She was just another stranger to me now. And for the first time since she walked out of our marriage, I was okay with that. The next morning, I woke up to a text message from Lisa. Lisa, I'm sorry. I stared at the words for a long moment, then locked my phone without replying. What was there to say? That I forgave her? That I understood? That I could somehow erase the months of deception, the damage she had done to our son, the way she had tossed our life aside like it meant nothing? No. Some mistakes couldn't be undone. I got up, stretched, and made my way downstairs. Daniel was already at the table, eating his cereal, his legs swinging back and forth under the chair. He looked up when he saw me, grinning through a mouthful of food. Morning, Dad. I smiled, ruffling his hair as I sat down across from him. Morning, buddy. You sleep well? He nodded, shoveling another spoonful of cereal into his mouth. Yeah. Are we still going to the arcade later? I chuckled. Of course. Wouldn't miss it. His face lit up, and in that moment, I realized something. This was what mattered. Not Lisa. Not her regret. Not the disaster she had made of her life. Daniel was my priority. He always had been. And unlike Lisa, I wasn't about to walk away from what really mattered. Later that day, I got a call from Monica. I debated ignoring it, but curiosity got the better of me. Monica, I answered. What's up? She sighed. Lisa called me. I wasn't surprised. And she's completely broke. You know that, right? I leaned against the kitchen counter, rubbing my jaw. Yeah, I figured. Monica hesitated. She asked if she could stay with me for a while. I let out a humorless chuckle. Of course she did. Lisa had burned every bridge she had, and now she was looking for scraps. It was almost pathetic. Monica sighed. I told her no. That made me pause. Really? Yeah. I raised an eyebrow. I thought you two were best friends. Monica exhaled slowly. We were. But she's not the same Lisa I knew. And honestly, I think she needs to hit rock bottom before she realizes what she's done. I nodded, understanding exactly what she meant. Lisa had spent so long convincing herself that she was untouchable, that she could throw away everything and come out on top. She had believed she was choosing happiness, but happiness built on betrayal never lasted. And now, she was paying the price. Days passed, then a week. Lisa stopped calling, stopped texting. At first, I wondered if she had finally given up. But then, one evening, she showed up at my door. I opened it to find her standing there, looking even worse than before. Her clothes were wrinkled, her hair a mess. There was no trace of the confident, self-assured woman who had once stood in front of me and handed me divorce papers. Now, she just looked lost. Lisa, I said evenly. She swallowed hard. I know you don't want to see me, but I didn't know where else to go. I leaned against the door frame, arms crossed. That's not my problem. Her lower lip trembled. I don't need money, You need what, Lisa? I interrupted, my voice calm but firm. A second chance? A shoulder to cry on? Someone to save you? She didn't answer. Because we both knew the truth. Lisa had no one. She had burned every bridge, cut ties with the people who cared about her, and given everything she had to a man who had never loved her. And now, she was standing here, expecting me to help her pick up the pieces. I sighed, rubbing a hand over my face. Look, Lisa, I don't hate you. I really don't. She blinked, clearly surprised. I continued, but I don't pity you either. You made your choices. You threw away our family, our life, our future, for him. And now that he's gone, you're realizing just how bad you messed up. Her breath hitched. I know I did. Yeah, you did. I exhaled sharply. I've moved on, Lisa. Daniel and I? We're good. We're better than we were before. She bit her lip. I miss him. That made me pause. Because for all of Lisa's selfishness, for all the pain she had caused, I knew one thing. She did love Daniel. I took a deep breath. He's not your toy, Lisa. You don't just get to walk away and then come back when it's convenient. Tears spilled down her cheeks. I just want to see him. I studied her for a long moment. Then, finally, I stepped aside. You have 10 minutes. She blinked in shock. Really? 10 minutes. She nodded quickly, stepping inside. I led her to the living room, where Daniel was watching TV. The moment he saw her, his eyes widened. Mom. Lisa covered her mouth, a sob escaping. Hey, baby. Daniel hesitated, then got up and walked toward her. Lisa crouched down, pulling him into a tight hug. I stood in the doorway, watching. For the first time in months, Lisa had nothing to offer. No money, no charm, no lies. Just regret. And in the end, that was all she had left. Lisa held Daniel in her arms like she was afraid to let go. Her fingers curled around the back of his shirt, her body trembling as she clung to him. I stood at a distance, arms crossed, watching as my son awkwardly patted her back. He was hesitant, unsure. And why wouldn't he be? She had left him behind, chasing after a fantasy. Now, she was here, acting as if she hadn't shattered everything in the process. Daniel finally pulled away, looking up at her with big, questioning eyes. "Where have you been, Mom?" Lisa swallowed hard, her lips pressing together. She glanced at me, then back at him. I had to figure some things out." Daniel frowned. "So you left?" Lisa's breath hitched. "I didn't mean to hurt you, sweetheart." I almost scoffed. That was a lie. Maybe not a conscious one, but a lie all the same. Lisa hadn't thought about the consequences of her actions when she walked away. She had been too caught up in her own desires, her own selfish need for something new. Daniel looked down at the floor, kicking at nothing. "Are you staying?" Lisa inhaled sharply, tears welling in her eyes. I don't know, baby. I want to, but," she trailed off, glancing at me again. I raised an eyebrow. "But?" Lisa let out a shaky breath. "I don't have anywhere to go." There it was. The real reason she had come. Not just to see Daniel, but because she had run out of options. She was homeless, broke, and completely alone. And now, she was standing in my house, trying to find a way back into the life she had so carelessly abandoned. I sighed, rubbing my temples. "Lisa, you made your choice." She flinched. "I know. You walked away." "I know." I tilted my head, studying her. "And now you want what? A second chance?" She hesitated, then whispered, "Yes." I let out a humorless chuckle. "You think it's that easy?" Tears slipped down her cheeks. "I don't expect you to take me back. I know I don't deserve that. But I don't know what to do. I have nothing left." I stared at her for a long moment, weighing my options. I could have thrown her out, told her to deal with the consequences of her own actions. And a part of me wanted to. But then I looked at Daniel. He was still standing there, watching, waiting. He might not have understood everything that had happened, but he knew enough. And the last thing I wanted was for my son to think I was the kind of man who turned his back on people, even the ones who had hurt him. I sighed, pinching the bridge of my nose. "I'm not going to let you stay here, Lisa." Her shoulders slumped, fresh tears spilling down her face. "I understand, but I'll help you get back on your feet." Her head snapped up. You will?" I nodded. "For Daniel." She let out a sob, covering her mouth with her hands. "Thank you." I exhaled, already regretting my decision. "I'll help you find a place to stay. Something temporary, until you figure things out." Lisa nodded quickly. "Okay, that's more than I could have asked for." I studied her carefully. "But I need you to understand something, Lisa." She swallowed. "Anything?" I stepped closer, lowering my voice. "This doesn't change what you did. It doesn't erase the past. And it sure as hell doesn't mean we're ever going to be us again." She flinched but nodded. "I get it." I wasn't sure she did, but it didn't matter. What mattered was Daniel. And I wasn't going to let his mother's mistakes define the kind of father I was. Over the next few days, I made arrangements for Lisa to stay at a small apartment complex on the other side of town. It wasn't fancy, but it was clean and safe. She would have a roof over her head and a chance to start over. She didn't deserve it, but Daniel did. When I took her to see the place, she turned to me, her eyes filled with something I couldn't quite place. "Why are you doing this?" she asked softly. I exhaled, looking away. "Because I'm not you." She flinched but didn't argue. Instead, she nodded, wiping at her eyes. "I'll pay you back. Every cent." I smirked. "We'll see." I didn't need her money. I just needed her to stay away from my life. For my peace. And from the future I was building with Daniel, without her. A week later, Lisa called. I debated ignoring it, but against my better judgment, I answered. "What is it?" She hesitated. "I just wanted to say thank you." I leaned back in my chair, staring at the ceiling. "You don't have to thank me, Lisa. Just be better." She let out a shaky breath. "I'm trying." "Good." A pause. "Then, maybe one day, we can be friends." I chuckled, low and cold. "Let's not get ahead of ourselves." She sighed. Right. Another beat of silence. Then, finally, she whispered, "Goodbye, James." I let the name settle in the air between us. It used to mean something. Once. But not anymore. I inhaled deeply, then exhaled. "Goodbye, Lisa." And with that, I hung up. For the first time in months, I felt free. No more anger. No more pain. Just peace. Lisa had lost everything. But me? I had everything I needed.